So in the last video, what we were looking at was we created this formula that I believe it's the one we're going to be using as array output for automation that you see here. We gave a link to the base in the last video, and we can add a link down below. If you want a copy of this base, you can click on it and get added to it. But what we have here is we have a comma separated list of values that we're going to be using for this. So you don't have to have yours look like ours. The purpose of ours was to be able to actually, do you want to talk about the purpose of ours, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, the main purpose of this is to provide a nice, easy way for users who are inputting and creating assets in your system to just enter on a form, laptop quantity 2 or desktop quantity 2, and that then goes and generates records for you. So if I find 10 desktops and I click 10 desktop go, that goes and creates 10 individual records in my assets table that are desktops, and it links them to the right project. So then I can do my reporting and my project management thereafter. But it's this like crucial like generation of assets with a variable number that we're solving for here.
Yep. So how can we use that now with linked records?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and link this, and let's change this name to initial output, just like keep it something. Okay, so we're going to link this now to the assets table. That's an obvious first step. And the first step of this process is I simply want to paste this value over here. And if I look at my assets table, you're going to see it's completely blank right now. And watch what happens when I paste this right here. Look at how that just created exactly the amount of number that that request was asking for, which in this case was 500. That was a big example. No wonder it took a while to paste. But you saw I just requested 500 records, and with one paste, I was able to make them. So let's delete these records. We don't need them to be there right now. Let's do this with an actual automation. So I'm going to go over to automations, and I'm going to say when asset generation quantity is greater than 0 and the assets is empty, I simply want to update So I'm simply going to want to update the trigger record, and I'm going to want to update the assets to this special array output for automation. So this is going to be a generate So it's a really simple automation. All it's doing is pasting that formula into the assets table. Let's give it a shot. So I'm going to run this with this one here, and I'm going to click Run Automation. And let's go over to the base and see if it did. It did, in fact, create those. Let's see, was there a 99? Yeah, right here, 99 that we chose. And it linked all of them to this asset generation. What we have to do now is massage the data, because like I've generated these records, but these records are pretty dumb if you think about it. Like this isn't telling me much. Like I can't really do anything with this. I now need to assign a project and a category. There's two ways to do this. One is to create a formula that extracts the record ID and extracts the category and pastes it. Secondarily is to do a lookup, right? If I look at the asset generation record and I see the category and I see the project, like it's right there. It's in the data of the asset generation record. So instead of doing all this like fancy work, let's now do something where in the automations, I have a second automation that's going to be link asset to project and category. And this is simply on the assets table going to say when the asset generation is not empty, and let's just choose one of these, the category is empty. We are going to update that asset, and we're going to update the project and the category. So let's go and choose the project. Wait, that's not correct, sorry. We're into the project lookup, get that ID. Get that name over here of the category. We typically also use another table for the categories, not a linked single select, but in this case, let's just keep it simple. And okay, we now have both of those automations up and running. Thanks, Airtable was already on. Oh, it was the other page. Okay, so let's delete these records and give it a shot. So if I go over to asset generation and, oh, right there. So it just triggered for this one. It generated all those assets, and now the automation should be running to populate, there you go, the project and the category for each of these assets. So you just generated 99 assets linked to the right project. If I had an interface now that showed me, you know, let's see, so let's just do this as a record review, and I can see my projects. Sorry that I'm zooming over already to an interface in this video, but like, it's pretty cool that I can come over and make this a view. Let's make this a view as well.
So if you're going to make this a view, I added a bonus formula for anybody who gets the base that is a field called order. And that order field orders the linked records in the way that they were linked to the master record. And it returns a number value. Shout out Kuvan for, I think, inspiring that formula.
So like, yeah, I don't know how deep I should go into this interface. Because yeah, like, I guess let's just stay over here at face value, because this actually doesn't fully work right now the way that we have it. And the reason why is, say that another project right now that for this same project was a laptop, and I wanted to generate 10 of them. Let's delete that and then bring it back. And you're going to see that that's actually going to link to, did it? Actually generate. Oh yes, it did. It linked to the 10 assets that were already there. So two ways to get around this. One way is to include the record ID of this asset generation record in here to make it truly unique. So every time it's pasted, that's probably the easiest way to do it. The second way is to blank out this name. You don't need this like this anymore. You could create like a generic name that now says like Project X laptop with its own serial number. That's probably even a better thing, is like to have an auto number in this table and then like a formula that says project and category and ID. And you see, this would be kind of ugly because that number is going to be like just growing randomly, but that's okay. Like it's just an ID for, it's not like contextual to the project. If a client needed that, that'd be its own, probably one more table to facilitate that. But yeah, so like in my automation, after I link the asset to the individual stuff, I would then again update the record and update the asset name. To be the updated records name for automation. So if we go back now and we delete all of these assets, oh, this actually might, yeah, this might cause race conditions now because I'm doing this all at once. So let me turn this off.
And what are race conditions for those who don't know? So like you're in a race and multiple people can get first, or what?
Race conditions is like, imagine if two people are trying to do something at the same time and they both trigger an automation. And like one person said, I want to generate 5, and another person said, I want to generate 8, and they both click go at the same time. Airtable is going to go and find like who clicked go the most recently, and it's going to get that person's 8 and apply it to both people, like the 5 and the 8. And the 5 is going to be like, wait, how did that happen? I didn't say 8. That's a very like rough draft version of it, but imagine that extrapolate. We have to think of like, is this a user experience that multiple people are going to be entering into the same document or into the same workflow at the same time? We have to partition that, like, to like consider all these things. And the best way actually is to include the record ID of the initial thing. Like instead of everything else that I'm doing here, I'm actually just going to add that. So I'm going to go over here to this plug to here and say add record ID. And I think that's it. Yeah. So I think that solves it. Let's just like try it here. If I paste this here, paste that there, I think I need to turn the automations back on. I'm just going to manually trigger this one here, but copy and pasting. I think.
Sweet. It triggered for a few of them, 17, 18, 19. And I deleted the records beforehand.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like we should start from scratch with the whole thing. Like to say, not the whole base, like all the records. So like, let's create a form now, a simple old school form. We like to keep it old school. We don't do new interface forms. No, I'm kidding, you can cut that out. So let's create a simple form where they can choose the project, choose the category and the quantity. All right, and now let's go back and delete everything that we've done to date. Okay, so someone comes, you say, hey, when you want to add assets, use this form. I go and I say it's project X, category is going to be laptop, and I want to generate 4 of them. If I click submit, all I really care about is that at the assets table, I'm going to get 4 assets linked to the right project and linked to the right category. That's all I care about. I don't even need to see this whole asset generation table. Let me click submit, and let's wait and see what happens. So there we go. We have 4 assets linked to the right project and linked to the right category, and each with their own unique ID. The next step to this is to create a QR code of this name right here that is a unique name, a QR code that can then be used in forms to scan these items in and out of inventory, or to open up a form for this item. I scan a QR code and it pulls up my inspection form for this item. That's on a later video. But now that I have a unique ID, you see this is a free text field that the paste happened. This is actually pretty beautiful. Let's now say for this project, I now counted 2 tablets. Submit. Look at how it pastes it ugly. It then does the linking, and then it pastes a really nice name for it. So yeah, looks
That's
like
pretty awesome. I just submitted another one. So how you would probably want to look at this is maybe grouped a little bit easier. And then the last thing that I want to show off is the formula that I added, the order formula. It is beautiful. We're going to move it there.
Okay, this is definitely, what's that in a video game, Cupcakes, where they like hide things? It's a very important one.
Easter eggs.
Easter eggs. Oh my God, I get that wrong every time. So
So
what is this doing? Is this saying like this is the fourth laptop in this project, or what is this saying?
so technically, if you reordered the linked records for this, like how this links to asset generation, the number there could change. But what that is saying is project 309 is the first linked record, 310 is the second one, 311 is the third one, and 312 is the fourth one. It may seem obvious because of the way we've built this, but it's not always obvious with linked records. That formula return, basically what it's doing is it's searching the record ID in like a lookup. It's looking up on the asset generation table. We're looking up what are all of the record IDs of the assets. That one right there. And then on the assets table, our roll up field is comparing where does the record ID of this record sit in that list. So then it's returning the order, and then it needs to do some math. So it knows
So
record IDs are 17 characters long, commas are
that's
one character.
that's the hard part, right? That's the really hard part, especially when you have a lot of linked records. Like if you had 600, are you going to have any duplicates there? Like, are you going to, did we get that? Maybe we have to use the log formula for this. So let me just test something because you have a handheld. Let's do 3 more handhelds. Gotcha. Okay, so it's relative to the asset generation record. So like, I just generated 3 more and those 3 now have 1, 2, 3. So in the generation, this was like the third that was generated related to this record.
Yes. So maybe you would want that to the project instead. Like
Exactly.
the formula that I built, you would not want it lined up to the asset generation.
Right. It'd be a project lookup to the assets record ID. And then this would be the project's no, not this one. And now we have that order. And that is true. These were the last 3 that were created. So now you can have not only like a unique number, but you can also have like 319.11, 319, and you can have now context in the item name of like, was this one of the early assets or was this one of like the later assets that was generated for this project?
So again, if you want a copy of this base, if you want to copy and paste some of these formulas, I actually always I have one specific base I always go to go copy that formula out of it because I don't want to have to figure out the math each time. You can go down in the pinned comment or in the description and get the link to this.